I've taken more holidays than most people this year, and no, I'm not rich. These 5 travel hacks genuinely saved me cash or effort, and I'll also share the 2 that wasted my time or flat out just didn't work. YouTube and the internet in general is full of so-called travel hacks. Some are useless, some are stupid, and some are borderline illegal, or should be. And some are just influencers trying to get clicks by saying, hey, book your flights at 3:15 on a Tuesday morning under a full moon while facing east and sitting on a balcony. Maybe not. However, I'm running a travel channel. I thought I'd have a go at doing some hacks, and I've come up with 5 that I use regularly, and I'll be honest, I struggle to come up with any more. If you know any, drop them below. As you know, I travel a lot and I also work full time, and I'm definitely not rich. So I've narrowed it down to 5 things I actually use, the ones that have saved me money, time, or possibly both. They're not flashy, they won't change your life, but they will help you travel smarter, and that's what matters. Google Flights is your friend. If you're only searching from one airport, you're doing it wrong. Put multiple origin airports in. I usually put Manchester, Birmingham, Liverpool and London and click all of them. Now, I don't live near any of them airports, and you've got to weigh up whether it's worth driving further to save the money. But here's one thing they won't tell you with all the hacks. 99% of the time, it will be cheaper to fly from London. You can't change that. There's no hack in the world will avoid that. So unless you're willing to drive to London, you are going to pay more for your flights. End of. And I often do drive to London, but for me, it's not so bad. Where I live, it's 2 hours, 2.5 hours to drive to Manchester. I might as well stay in the car for another couple and go to Luton. But the big one is not to give it any dates. Select your origin and destination and leave the dates blank. Click on the box and open up the calendar for the month, and you'll see the dates you fancy. So you let the bargains pick your travel dates, not the other way round. It's not a secret, it's not a hack that needs a cheat code, it's just Google Flights and a smarter way to use it. Another thing might be to try researching the legs separately. I know Google Flights is very good at working it out, but it's not a genius. And sometimes you might find it's cheaper to fly out from Manchester and back to Liverpool. It's worth a try. There's no substitute for sitting there pressing the buttons. There are a few other things related to Google Flights. I'll tell you about it in another hack later on. Anyone can do it, it's not a hack, but it does get me cheap flights and it does save me time. Free booze, if that doesn't get your attention, nothing will. Now, loyalty schemes and luxury lounges don't exactly scream budget, does it? But hear me out. If you can save money or grab freebies just by going around your daily life, it adds up fast. Here are my top 3 loyalty hacks that quietly bankroll my travel addiction. I was going to say habit, but it's an addiction. First one up is my Nectar card. I convert all my Nectar points to Avios. Every time I fill up the car, I swipe that little card. Instead of spending the points on groceries, I'm converting them to air miles. In 3 years, I've banked £200 worth of flight credit if I choose to use it that way, or if I take it as a reward flight, I'm about 40 points away from a return flight to Toronto, all from buying fuel and not spending them points. Next one up is cashback sites. Sounds boring, but before I book anything, hotels, insurance, tours, I always check Quidco. If they're on there, you go via there and you get a little bit back. £2 here, £3 there. Right now I've got 150 sitting in my account. Since I've been doing it, I've done over £1,500. With my skills, that's almost a weekend for 2 in Latvia for doing absolutely nothing other than going to a site first. Other cashback sites exist, but I'm loyal to whoever pays me the most and the quickest. And the third one up is real corporate boredom. Barclays Travel Plus Pack. Sounds boring, right? Well, it's not. It's £22.75 a month, and here's what I get. Family travel insurance, including the kids, even when they travel without me. Full RAC cover, again for the whole family. Airport discounts, which is usually 15% off food and drinks. So we're already there on the family travel insurance and RAC cover. I'm about £150 a year up. And the big one, 6 free airport lounge passes per year. Now lounges aren't just fancy chairs. They're food, drink, Wi-Fi, comfy seats, peace and quiet. Each pass costs you £40 minimum. That covers food, drink, including alcoholic drink. So before your flight, you're well fed and mildly inebriated. I have slept on many an outbound flight because of a belly full of gin. And suddenly budget travel looks more like VIP. Right, I've said this before and it might seem obvious, but travel light, seriously. On 99% of my trips I use this thing. My trusty Norway bag. Now I love this bag for a few simple reasons. It fits under the seat, so no carry-on fees on Ryanair, Wizz, EasyJet, you name it. It's soft-sided, so if you've overstuffed it with snacks, socks and street market tat, it still squeezes into the baggage sizer. It cost me £12 on Amazon. That was 4 years ago. And despite regular abuse, it's surprisingly tough. It survives weekend getaways, airport chaos and even a car crash. True story. It did need a little bit of stitching after that. It goes home with me every weekend, so in 4 years it's done. I'm not underestimating when I say 250 trips. I treat it like crap and it still keeps behaving. Easily holds enough for a 3 to 4 night break. Suin's got one too, but somehow she manages to pack a whole art gallery and a hairdryer. I've actually done a full week in it, that was Marrakesh. And though in all fairness it was a hot country, so I really only needed t-shirts and not many trousers. On top of that, I always wear my bulkiest stuff on the flight. Hoodie, coat, heavy shoes, and remember, coats have pockets and that's free real estate. Now, budget airlines can charge about £50 return for a proper cabin bag, so this saves me £50 every time. Now when you think about it, how often do you travel on your own? And in my case, how often do you pay for your other passengers? All the bloody time. But if I go away with 2 kids, you're talking that's £150 a trip for squeezing it all into this. It's a hell of a saving, isn't it? It's not glamorous, but it saves me money every flight, and that's the kind of travel hack I can get behind. Right, let's talk about AI. Now I'll be honest, I'm not one of those tech bros with 5 screens and a standing desk. I'm new to this. But on its first ever try, I asked ChatGPT to plan me a weekend break, and it found the exact same deal I'd found. Which, let's be real, either I'm a genius, which is totally possible, or the robot is. Probably both. Since then I've used it for all sorts, helping me pick destinations, comparing my research, even planning full itineraries. In fact, I did a whole video where I let ChatGPT plan my entire holiday. It's up there if you want to have a look. Spoiler alert, it absolutely nailed it. Now here's the real kicker, it gets so much better when you learn to prompt it correctly. None of this, where should I go in Europe fluff, which it will deal with that. We're talking next level travel hacking. Here's a prompt I saw online. Imagine you're a world-class travel expert. Find me the cheapest return flight to Miami in the next 60 days. Be willing to include hidden city ticketing, long layovers, alternative airports, open jaw returns, and every trick you know to get me there for less. Show me your best result. That will include, let's say there's a flight to Jamaica going via Miami. Might be cheaper to get off at Miami, just saying. Mate, it's like asking Jason Bourne to plan your holiday. If there's a weird routing via Reykjavik and a 12-hour stopover in Istanbul, it'll sniff it out like a truffle pig with a boarding pass. Now, I'm not saying you'll always get gold, but even if it gives you just one smart idea, it's worth a try. If nothing else, it can validate your own research. Just tell it what you want and ask it to be clever about it. It's like having a nerdy friend who lives in your laptop. Doesn't mind doing all the boring comparison work while you sit there eating crisps and looking smug. I don't use it all the time, and I'm going to be honest with you, I actually love the nerdy research. I love the battle of me versus the travel agent. I usually win. Right, confession time. I'm getting on a bit. I'm no longer 25. So when I hear Organised tour, my brain flashes back to a sunburnt rep in a polo shirt trying to flog me a coach ride to a dolphin park for the price of a small car. Back then it was all exclusive excursion this, limited places that, usually ending in a gift shop for 3 hours, waiting for a minibus. But since the internet, even I've had to reevaluate. Enter Viator. I'm now a full-on convert. It turns out you can book tours that actually add value to your trip. Wow, who'd have thought that back in the 80s and 90s? And you don't need to sell a kidney. What I love is the simplicity. You get the edited highlights, skip the stress of planning and just turn up. Now, don't get me wrong, I enjoy the stress of planning sometimes, but sometimes it's just nice to get, boom, let's do that town, let's get someone else to worry about it. As long as you read the reviews and pick something that actually suits you, you're golden. No point signing up for a half-day crochet course if you don't want to crochet. I've probably done 25 plus of these now, and honestly, I've never been disappointed. My absolute favourite was in Marrakesh with a 3-day, 2-night Sahara safari. Accommodation, 2 meals a day, camel rides, sand dunes, and enough Insta moments to last a lifetime, and all for £80 a head. And because we were out of the hotel for 2 nights, we saved on those nights as well. So not only was it brilliant, it was basically cost neutral. Adventure and thriftiness. Yes please. Another bonus, because of the bulk buying power of Viator, the price is often better than booking with a tour provider direct. Add in the fact that it's on Quidco, so you get their cashback as well. You got me doing fist bumps at the airport. So yeah, I've gone from tour snob to tour evangelist, and I'm not sorry. And of course, some hacks suck. You know, those travel hacks that sound clever until you actually try them. Yeah, these are the ones that look great on TikTok and turned out to be a total faff. Let's save you the grief. Clear your cookies, clear your bank account. Now, you've all heard this one. Clear your cookies or the airline will hike the price. Yeah, no. Unless your laptop is personally threatening the Ryanair algorithm, this one's mostly urban legend. Same goes for that track the flight 17 times under a full moon and book on a Tuesday morning nonsense. Look, they do change prices, but it's usually demand based, not because you peaked twice. I've tried all these and I've ended up confusing my laptop, having to log in every time because I'm on a VPN. It's just a pain in the backside. Use Google Flights or Skyscanner and get on with your life. But what you should do is go old school, get a pen and a book, write things down. I've learned that long haul British Airways, they release their flights 355 days in advance. They usually test the waters for the first week. There's some good deals to be had then. If you want to take advantage of the cheap Chinese airlines, their best prices are about 3 months out. You don't need to learn all of these, you just need to learn the ones that are relevant to you. But yeah, all the comments about clearing your cookies is a complete urban myth, or so I've found. Now you've heard this one 100 times before, book early and save a fortune, but let's be real, that's a load of nonsense wrapped up in panic marketing. Yes, sometimes booking early helps, but if it's a peak date, a tiny flight route, or you're just going for school holidays. But for most trips, especially weekend city breaks or off-season adventures, airlines use dynamic pricing. That means the first tickets released are not always the cheapest. Sometimes they're just the first to go. They test the water, they see how fast tickets sell. They sometimes hold them back and release them in sectors. EasyJet are very good for this. But EasyJet also let you know their release schedule, so boom, get on it. And then they tweak the prices like they're running an auction. There is a little bit of something to be said that you can book cheaper during the week than you can at a weekend. Kind of makes sense, more people are looking. Now I've personally booked flights a few weeks out for way less than I saw them going 6 months earlier. I've also left it to the last minute and been caned. If you're flexible, smart and happy flying Friday to Sunday instead of Thursday to Saturday, you're better off waiting. And guess what? If you use tools like Google Flights, Skyscanner's Everywhere Search, you can track trends, see price history and figure out if the deal you're eyeing is good. 9 times out of 10 when I'm booking a flight, Google is telling me its prices are particularly cheap for this route at the moment, so it's well worth doing. It could just be airline FOMO trying to trick you into impulse buying. So no, you don't always have to be the early bird, sometimes the chill pigeon with the calendar alert wins. Classic example is, for some reason, I'm currently looking at cruises. I've got no desire to go on a cruise, but this is just what I do in my spare time. P&O have been doing a deal that the summer sale runs out on the 20th of August. 20th of August comes, 20th of August goes. Yes, the base price of the cruise has gone up by £40. I'm going, oh my god. However, the upgrade to a balcony, if you're willing to go a month later, has dropped significantly. So instead of paying, I'll give you a clue now, a Canaries cruise tends to kick for December, January and February, kicks in at a base price of $599. In January, the upgrade to a balcony comes up to about £1,500 for 2, so that's $750. At the moment, if you jump on it at $629 base price, the balcony is only $1,300 for a cabin for 2. So you're only paying £21 for that upgrade compared to $150. It's all BS. The pricing ends up about the same in the long run, so don't worry about it. But If a balcony is important to you, it's worth waiting for that. But there's always another deadline. After the sale ends on the 20th, there'll be another sale ending on the 28th. This particular one is running for 3 days. Yeah, it's going to be the same price all year. A bit like the Allied carpet sale, isn't it? So there you have it, 5 travel hacks that aren't really hacks, that actually work because I actually use them, and 2 that sound clever but often aren't. But here's the ultimate hack no one talks about: find someone who does the legwork for you. I don't just read blogs, I book the flights, I take the trips, and I put my money where my mouth is. If you're fed up with influencers selling pipe dreams, or tired of hacks that involve living off protein bars and booking flights at 2 AM from 3 airports away, stick with me. I'm not rich, but I've learned to travel smart. So go on, subscribe, because I've got your back and your baggage allowance.